Uber's got a potential new rival in the gig economy field, and that rival might be Sony of all people.
And today's video is sponsored by Maximo, the rideshare automation app that allows drivers to safely and easily accept ride requests for Uber, Lyft, and Postmates. Whether you drive for a single platform or multiple platforms, Maximo's custom settings can help you drive more efficient, less distracted, and help you maximize your earnings. It will automatically accept one trip, turn off the other apps, and when your trip is over, it will end it, open the other apps, and accept the next trip, all without you having to touch your phone. Use referral code APP60 and get your first month free when you subscribe to Maximo.
Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and here's the thing about rideshare. You would think there would be more competitors in this field. I mean, when you stop and think about it, Uber and Lyft are just apps. And they're apps with a mapping system, a social network, and it really shouldn't be that difficult to duplicate, especially considering that whenever one company makes a change, the other company makes pretty much the exact same change, and they almost become interchangeable except one's black and one's pink. And yet you don't see a lot of people doing that, and you don't see like Google or anyone making a rideshare app. Maybe that's partly because these apps have not been very profitable, but you know what? Eventually someone will be profitable. And of all the companies that might be entering the gig economy space, it's Sony. As it says here, Sony launches a taxi hailing app to rival Uber in Tokyo. Now, there's a little bit of an asterisk here because, as you're going to see, this isn't strictly a ride-sharing app. So, no, I don't have a referral code. No one's going to be signing up for this anytime soon. But the creation of this is very interesting, and you're going to see why in a moment. Sony last year announced it would enter Japan's taxi hailing space, and good to its word, the electronics giant has kicked off its S-Ride service in Tokyo. The service, which was first noted by CNET, is a joint venture between Sony, its payment service subsidiary, and 5 licensed taxi companies. Because ride-hailing with civilian cars is illegal in Japan, the service will focus on connecting licensed taxis with passengers. The electronics giants previously played up its use of AI to match supply and demand, and on the payment side, it supports QR scans as well as an Uber-style cashless credit card. Altogether, S-Ride claims to cover 10,000 licensed taxis in Tokyo. Its largest competition is Japan Taxi, a venture from the taxi industry that's backed by Toyota, among others, which claims 50,000 vehicles across Japan as a whole. Other rivals include chat app Line, which has offered taxi hailing for years, Uber, which has been working on striking deals with taxi operators, and China's Didi Chuxing, which operates a joint venture with Uber investor SoftBank. Lyft has expressed an interest in Japan, where its investor Rakuten is a major name, but has not expanded there yet. A Sony spokesperson told CNET there are no plans to launch S-Ride overseas, so we can file this in the Japan-only file. So as you can see, it's not strictly a ride-sharing app. It connects you to a taxi like you would a rideshare app, but it's a legitimate taxi. And obviously the gig economy thing is, like, right now illegal in Japan, and until they fix that, Uber and Lyft probably won't expand. But let's really stop and think about this, because at this point, taxis are still super inconvenient to hail in America or anywhere else in the world. That's why Uber and Lyft are so popular. But we're starting to see heavy regulation with Uber and Lyft. The prices will be going up because of this regulation. What if Sony launched something like this in America, or Canada or something like that, and they said, hey, we're doing this for our American, taxi drivers, join our service. All these taxi services can be under one roof. At that point, the taxi drivers have their own app-based network that they can go to. Now then, let's say Sony at one point in America says, hey, you know what? There's nothing really stopping us from doing what Uber and Lyft does. We have the app. It's now in America. Why don't we create an option so that if you want to do a shared ride, aka ride sharing, you can just select it on the app? Well, at that point, Sony becomes a competitor. So while Sony is not strictly a competitor to Uber Lyft yet, this is a sign that they could be. And I know some of you people are like laughing right now, like, oh geez, Sony's getting involved in this. What do they know about the ride sharing business? Well, I'm dating myself a little bit, but how many of you own a PlayStation? I mean, for some of you, PlayStation and Xbox are probably like the big things that they've always been around, but that wasn't always the case. When I was a kid, it was Nintendo versus Sega. And at one point, Sony wanted to team up with Nintendo to create a disc-based add-on for the Super Nintendo, where you could put games on a CD-ROM. It was going to be called the Sony Nintendo PlayStation. For whatever reason, and there's history videos out there, so you can look it up, Nintendo backed out of the deal with Sony. And Sony took their technology and they developed it on their own. And they actually, for a long time, ended up becoming the #1 video game manufacturer in the world, and even played a huge role in killing Sega in the console market. And now Sega pretty much just makes Sonic games and the occasional Bayonetta sequel. So give Sony an inch and they can dominate an industry. And Sony also dominates the MP3 player industry. Ever since Apple kind of like said that that's not an industry they're interested in anymore, the Sony MP3 players sell extremely well. And Sony's TVs are very popular. They don't have a computer division anymore, but I think they still have phones, and their phones are pretty good. So Sony does a lot of things right. And if they decide they want to bring this to America, first it's just a way for taxis to connect with each other, but then they decide at one point, you know what? Let's do a little bit of this. Let's change a line of code. Now we're in the ride-sharing business. We are in the ride-sharing business. And hey, you know what? Our prices can be comparable with Ubers and Lyfts. And hey, when you ride through us, you have a frequent flyer points thing, and you can get points towards a TV, an MP3 player, maybe a Blu-ray player or a movie of ours. I mean, Sony can do a lot of synergy that Uber and Lyft simply can't. And of course, Sony makes a lot of movies, and I don't know if you ever watched like a Sony movie, but Sony movies are notoriously bad for product placement. Like two examples, Men in Black 2, which is a terrible movie by the way, has a cameo by Michael Jackson, who Sony was releasing Michael Jackson albums, and when it's time to control like a new car, the steering wheel is a PlayStation controller. Product placement. If you've seen Casino Royale, at one point, James Bond, who's played by Daniel Craig in this, wants to record some security footage. And he records it on a Blu-ray player, which was brand new at the time. Keep in mind, this is security footage. You don't need to burn it on a Blu-ray disc. A DVD would have been fine. Heck, he was in the control center. He could have just grabbed the film right there. But they wanted to sell the Blu-ray player, so they put it in the movie. Well, considering how many romantic comedies Sony makes where people are hailing down rides and they're hailing down an Uber or a Lyft, what if Sony decides, hey, you know what? We're launching S-Ride in America. So everyone in the movies who are hailing a ride, you're going to be using the S-Ride app. That's pretty powerful. That is a very powerful position Sony has. This also highlights why Uber and Lyft are not nearly as valuable as they say they are. Because obviously anyone can do this. Anyone can make an app. And you see, Sony's making it. Yeah, they're not using it exactly for what Uber and Lyft is doing it, but if they wanted to, they could. And then once they decide to do that, once they decide to take that leap and say, we're going to be getting in the ride-share business, so S-Ride is now simply a ride-sharing platform that you can get a taxi on if you so choose, then that's it. And by the way, some people might say, well, what if they don't have any drivers at first? Guess what? They connect to taxis. So until they have enough drivers, if there's not a driver around, okay, connect them to a taxi. Let them know, hey, a regular car isn't around. We're going to connect you to a taxi. It could happen. So Sony could be a player in this. You never know. Now, again, they have said that they have no intention of releasing outside of Japan yet, but you never know. Plans change. I'm just curious. What do you guys think about this? Do you think Sony might actually be a player in this? And if they're not, who will be? Because if Sony can do this, so can anyone. I would love to know, though. So, comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if the rising gas prices are bothering you and you want to save a little bit of money, check out the Get Upside app below. It's totally free and you will get bonuses back every time you buy gas, including cash back. Also, check out the Apptrepreneur Vlogs channel. It's a fairly new channel, but we're uploading new content every week. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.